Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cryptids and Critters Paranormal. I'm your host, the Deuster. Today, I want to share a true ghost story with you that actually happened to me in 1971. This is probably my first ghost hunting experience, and it almost turned out to be the last. But I call this one the Headless Woman. At the time, it seemed like a fun thing to do. Creepy and spooky, to say the least, but it still sounded like fun. After all, I had nothing else better to do on a Saturday night than to go ghost hunting with my brother and some high school friends. The year was 1971. I was single, fairly fresh out of high school, and had a second shift job in a hot, smoky factory that required me to spend a lot of my Saturday nights laboring over a hot molding press. So you see, my nights away from a factory were precious and few, and I didn't like to waste them. But when my friend Donnie told me the legend of the Headless Woman and how he had seen her with his own eyes, how could I say no? The story went something like this. A few years previous, a storm dropped several inches of rain over a 2 or 3 day period, flooding several roads in the county and making them virtually impassable. One such road was Highway 31W near the Kentucky state line. On this particular night, a lady, who shall remain nameless, not knowing the water had risen over the roadway, drove her car into the water and hit the concrete bridge abutment. The impact partially ejected her through the windshield, and she literally lost her head in the process. Her decapitated head fell into the raging muddy waters of Red River, never to be seen again. Her headless body was removed from the wreckage that night and taken to the local funeral home. After the waters receded, a search for her head was instituted along the riverbanks, but it proved futile. The undertaker got tired of waiting, so the search was called off, and she was buried in a local cemetery, minus her head. Anyway, the local legend was that her spirit still roamed the riverbanks at night, and a ghostly mist floated up and down the riverbank at night, searching in vain for her missing head. You had to park on an old stone arch bridge with the engine and lights off and watch for her appearance. The legend also stated if you remained on the bridge, you were safe. I couldn't help but wonder who came up with this rule and if the ghost was aware of it and even abided by this rule. Anyway, this I had to see with my own eyes. So just before dark, my brother, Terry, our friends Donnie and Muggsy, and I loaded up in my 67 Chevelle and headed toward Cross Plains. Soon we were parked on a bridge and waiting. I was hesitant about turning off the engine, though. What if she appeared and I had to make a quick getaway, which I guarantee you would have happened at the first indication of trouble. Talking about creepy, the old roadway was all but abandoned since the new highway had been completed, and I'm pretty sure the old stone bridge had a story or two that it could tell. The trees formed a canopy overhead that completely blocked out the moonlight and any visible stars, plunging the entire scene into total darkness. The old bridge was situated at the bottom of a long hill that went through the woods, and an old rock wall that was more than likely built by slave labor before the Civil War lined both sides of the roadway. Anyway, there we were, parked on a bridge in total darkness, waiting for this ghostly apparition to make her appearance. I'm not going to lie, I was scared. It's one thing to talk about something like this in the daylight, but to actually do it, especially in the dark, was something totally different. I stared straight ahead, with one hand on the light switch and the other on the ignition switch. We hadn't been there but a few minutes when Donnie yelled, "Look, there she is!" I never even glanced to where he was pointing. I turned the ignition switch and pulled the light switch on at the same time, put the gear shift in drive, and stomped the gas pedal, sending a shower of gravel deep into the woods as I hightailed it out of there. Muggsy called me a damn coward and tried to get me to go back, that he didn't get to see her. I wasn't listening, and he was still complaining when I dropped him off at his house. I had enough excitement for one night, and I got to thinking maybe I wasn't cut out to be a ghost hunter. The following night, which was a Sunday, we played hooky from church and decided to try it again. I promised not to chicken out this time. After all, this time there were 6 of us. Caveman and Robert had joined us because they had never seen a real live ghost before. And they say there is safety in numbers, and evidently the magic number this time was 6. I had found courage among friends, although the 2 or 3 beers I had consumed earlier probably didn't hurt either. We sat on the bridge for about an hour, and sure enough, if you look closely, you can make out a faint ghostly image moving amongst the trees that lined the riverbank. At first it appeared to be a foggy mist as it floated closer to the bridge, but gradually took on the form of a woman as it got closer and closer. I never let her get close enough to see if she actually had a head or not. After all, I wasn't sure if anyone had told her about the bridge rule. Over the years, as word of the ghost sighting got out, more and more thrill seekers converged on the scene and trying to witness the Headless Woman. The owner of the property closed off all access to the bridge, and it remains closed to this day. And that was my story of the Headless Woman. That was probably my first ghost hunting adventure, as far as actually getting out and trying to find one. I hope you enjoyed the story. And once again, this is Dooster with Cryptids and Critters Paranormal. And like my channel, subscribe to it. And we will be sharing some more stories here as we go along. And hope you like them. And like I said, this is Dooster. And we will catch you later.